soon intervene.
Will Johnny fight or will he flee?
Oh, please rescue me
From this monstrosity.
Give me not honey lamb. I will slice this thing up like a ham.
Oh boy.
You're about to enter a world of pain with which you are not familiar.
What the fuck was that?
Those were up, and they did.
We're smart, and my...
He told me enough. No, I. Here's Chuck.
Unfucking believable. A franchise when that goes from the best of the series to automatically the worst within 3 years apart. Unbelievable. That quickly, too. How is that possible? Hey everyone, Stodgy Corleone here, and I'm here with a brand new rant. And this rant is going to be for the third installment of another review series I'm currently doing this month. And of course, it's for what easily everyone considers to be one of the worst animated sequels of all time, one of the worst movies of 2007, and one of the worst third entries ever made in comedy and just film genre and animation in general. And one of this company's worst movies. And it made this character a complete meme joke. That film was going to be for obviously 2007's Shrek the Turd. I mean Shrek the Third. Shrek the Turd's a better title. Fine, I'll call it Shrek the Third. It's a stupid title for a third movie. The Third. Should have been called Shrek. Why? If you're going to make a third one, just call it Shrek 3. Is it really that hard? Apparently that bad to just call it Shrek 3, not Shrek the Third? The Third. Everybody knows it's the third one. Just call it Shrek 3. How is that so hard? Ugh. But what's the plot of this? Well, when King Harold of Far, Far Away dies, the clumsy Shrek becomes the immediate successor of the throne, but Shrek decides to find the legitimate hierarchy in a distant kingdom with his friends Donkey and Puss in Boots to be able to return to his beloved house in the swamp with the pregnant Fiona. Meanwhile, the envious and ambitious Prince Charming, why the hell is he back? Joins the villains of the fairy tales plotting a coup d'etat to become the new king of Far, Far Away. So, yeah. How is this made? Well, of course, because Shrek 2 is a success, which was definitely deserved. The third and fourth Shrek films and plans for a final fifth movie were announced in May 2004 by Jeffrey Katzenberg. Like Shrek 3 and 4 were going to reveal some unanswered questions according to Jeffrey Katzenberg, and finally in the last chapter we understood why Shrek came to be in that swamp, where we met him in the first film. DreamWorks then hired screenwriters Jeffrey Price and Peter S. Seaman, both of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Doc Hollywood, and Grinch, to write the script of the film, and John Zach, who wrote the perfect score, came on board as a consultant. Unlike the first two films, this was not directed by Edgar Aston due to his occupation with Chronicles of Narnia from 2005. Adamson was still involved though as executive producer, and given advice approximately every 4 months in the state of the film. And Shrek the Third was instead directed by Chris Miller. No, not Lord Miller, a different Chris Miller. Not that Miller. Not the Miller you guys are probably thinking of. Kind of would have preferred it was directed by Lord Miller. We probably would have gotten a better Shrek movie. a story artist on the first film and a head of story on the second, and co-directed by Raman Hai, and supervising animator in the first two films. And it was developed under the working title of Shrek 3, which it should have just been called, not Shrek the Third, which I think is a really lazy and stupid title. And by March 2006, the title of the film was changed to Shrek the Third, apparently, because according to Miller, the reason behind the title change was because they didn't just want to just sort of title like it was just a sequel, but it is a sequel. Instead, they wanted something to make it stand on its own, give it its own personality, and really try to treat it as a chapter in Shrek's life. It's still a sequel regardless. It's not just a chapter in Shrek's life, you idiots. And even remarked that it was about Shrek becoming a new king far, far away, and the title sounds kind of royal as well. And it was originally going to be released in November 2006, but in December 2004, the date was reasonably changed to May 2007, because the sheer magnitude of the Shrek franchise led us to conclude that a May release date with a DVD release around the holiday season would enable them to best maximize performance and increase profitability, thereby generating enhanced asset value and better returns for the shareholders. And Casper explained, while Flushed Away, another film for DreamWorks Animation, was given the November 2006 slot. And the release date change was also the day after Disney Pixar changed the release date of Cars from November 2005 to June 2006. So ironic, two studios at that time changed some release dates for certain films that were going to come after their 2004 hits. Well, with DreamWorks only one 2004 hit, we all know they made another film in 2004 that was actually a box office hit but was hated by a lot of people, and it basically starred an uncanny Will Smith fish that we don't speak about. The end. Okay, anyways. To let the cat out. Anyway, Shrek, after the film was shot and marketed and had so much hype, Shrek the Third premiered at the Man Village Theater Westwood in Los Angeles on May 6, 2007, and was theatrically released into the United States into theaters by Paramount on May 18, 2007. And, well, when it comes to the reviews, the first two got critical acclaim. This one did not. This one got negative reactions. Ouch. Damn, man, how do you go from two hits to a shitty third one quick? That quickly. But of course that didn't stop the film from being a commercial success anyway, because it's the second highest grossing film of the series. It grossed over $813 million worldwide on a budget of $160 million, becoming the fourth highest grossing film in 2007, so, in a way, you could say it didn't really kill the franchise, technically. Technically, it didn't really destroy the Shrek franchise for good, because it still made a big profit, at least. So at least that caused it to still get a better movie after this. And it was not nominated for Academy Awards for Best Animated Feature for good reasons. Instead, it was nominated for that category at the 61st British Academy Film Awards. But why? Why? As for my reaction, well, because I was a kid, obviously, upon first watching this in theaters at this friend's birthday party, I obviously liked it back then, but as the years progressed and I got older, I can definitely see how bad this movie really was. The joy and humor of the first two is gone, the new characters are really infuriating, one just really kicks my head in that I'll get to in a bit, and I think you know what character that is. Not the villain per se, the villain does too, but it's one of the new protagonists of this movie that you probably know I'm talking about. The villain, speaking of the villain is just rehashed from the second movie for no reason, no good reason to be in this movie. Most of the other characters we're attached to are like Princess Fiona and the other fairy tale creatures. They're all useless to the story, they have no reason to be in this movie at all. And the film feels so rushed, and even half the humor feels too damn gross and R-rated, even for a Shrek movie. Yeah, I get Shrek is known to have vulgarity in its movies, but dear God, none of the vulgarity was like this. At all. When you have R-rated levels of humor in your animated movie, have a good reason to. Shrek 1 and 2 had good reasons to be vulgar, because they were technically aimed for both kids and adults. This is just they just want to be... This one just feels like they just want to be as crude as possible. Here, rewatching this many times, this movie feels way more adult than it should. Even though Shrek the Third apparently seems to be really aimed at a younger demographic, but it's not as funny and just more childish humor. And some of the humor is not really kid appropriate in this one. Like, still in the Magnificent Castle, though, Shrek and Fiona experience differences as a married couple, and when tragedy strikes, Shrek and Donkey must go on a quest again to find the Kintyre Arthur. Of course, Puss in Boots tags along because after he became that new character in Shrek 2, and now it's a trio. So it's not just Shrek and Donkey. And Prince Charming, who was originally, we all know, was originally going to rescue Fiona, is now the antagonist. That's instead of like, remember the duo when it was him and Fairy Godmother, second one? That's like, and now it's just Prince Charming, this one. That's like taking the duo of Harvey Dent and the Riddler, or be Two-Face and Riddler. Batman Forever, and if you had Batman or Robin, if you had one of them come back at Batman or Robin as the antagonist, that's like saying either if the Batman or Robin just had only Riddler as the main antagonist. Or if Two-Face did survive Batman Forever and Riddler died instead, they're just Two-Face. That's kind of a lame duo. That's just a lame idea. If you did it like that. And Prince Charming does not work as an antagonist. At all. Because he's too childish, his reasons for evilness are basically is not really enjoyable film because, and technically speaking, it's kind of the townspeople in the dinner theater's fault for being assholes to him for being assholes over his performance in the beginning, even though like his mom just died and he's basically trying to make a living. They basically laugh at him, and so the townspeople kind of caused this all to happen. Rewatching this. But he is an annoying villain still, but I'm still pointing that out. So yeah, Shrek the Third is a really bad sequel. Even if it fails to have even an important message. So it could be safe to say the third film, if like this, definitely not the charm as usual, and this is one of them. Because Shrek the Third lacks virtually all the imaginativeness, wit, and magic that made the previous two installments such tremendous fun for young and old viewers alike despite their vulgarity. In this latest go-round, the writers have clearly run out of inspiration, and they leave us with a humorless farrago of labored jokes and sappy life lessons. Because it's basically the joys of prosthetic fatherhood and the importance of being willing to take a chance in life, which is something we've seen millions of times. Guaranteed to please no target audience or age group whatsoever. Like, it doesn't even know what this movie's trying to be. Is it trying to be for kids? Is it trying to be adults? The Shrek films first two films were meant for both. They knew what their audience was, everybody. It was for kids and adults like. This one doesn't know what it wants to be for. Because in this edition, Shrek's father-in-law dies and has to give his crown to Shrek on his deathbed, but unless a reluctant ogre can find a distant hire to take his place, Shrek, full of doubts about his own ability to rule the kingdom, heads off with his faithful companions to find the boy and bring him back to life, and then to the castle where he'll assume his rightful place on the throne, but Prince Charming is invading far, far away, and they have to try to get rid of him first. As I retcon, there was, hardly any laughs in Shrek the Third, except for, the opening montage of except for only times I really laughed were all of Merlin's scenes. Merlin was probably one of the only best things that come out of this movie. Other than that, it's just pretty much just downhill for the rest. Because one ostensibly comic line after another crashes and burns, and it leaves us with little but the gorgeous backdrops and seamless animation to hold our attention. And regarding the latter point, it's even stated that movie animators came a long way in the perfecting facial expression of their characters, but what's the point of such a technological advancement if it's placed in the service of a dismal script as Andrew Adams, Howard Gold, Jeffrey Price, Pierce Seaman, J. David Stern, David Weiss, and John Zack have concocted here? Yeah, you know you're in trouble when you have no fewer than 7 writers have a hand in a screenplay, but couldn't at least one of them come up with a funny joke or two while they were hammering it all out? Remembering why the first 2 were great? And the story itself is dull and plotting here, and even the Shrek trademark of piling on clever pop culture references falls flat in this instance. And having medieval teenagers blabbing away in an already dated Valley Girl lingo just doesn't cut. Yeah, because this movie actually introduces us to how the Shrek universe would do a high school. And that's a lame idea. In the first film, you literally have this whole town that's like a kingdom or somewhat, or just a swamp, really. here, just introducing us to the lore of the series, and having parodies of fairy tale characters. The second one, you introduced us to what Hollywood would probably look like in the fairy tale universe, far, far away. Or California, or Hollywood would probably look like in the Shrek franchise. Right there. Which was creative. Far, Far Away was a creative idea. It was a creative design. It was a perfect town. It felt beautiful to visit and look at. You felt like you were really there in the second one. This, all we get is introducing us to a high school that plays no role in the movie except just to introduce us to Artie. Like, I don't know what happened in this movie. Like, the writers just ran out of joke materials. You could tell. The laughs were just few and far between. And the new characters are not even funny. The only funny new character in this whole movie was Merlin. Like, Merlin was actually the only scenes I liked here were just about Merlin scenes. I don't know why we could have had just more of this character in this movie. Like, this character probably would have saved the movie more if he was in it a little more. Because I honestly, Eric Idle made the character enjoyable to watch. Probably the only funny parody character in this whole movie. He was more funnier in this movie than any Shrek, Donkey, or Puss were in this whole movie at all. Because they just lost their charm in this movie. They pretty much lost their side-spitting one-liners and antics, and occasionally it may be there, but they just don't bring out the laughs they did in the first two. Just how many more jokes and song was the Shrek franchise going to borrow before it lost the identity and became confused as something else? Like, Shrek the Third was the third offering of family entertainment that just contains more adult humor, more pop culture references, and music from all kinds of genres and time periods. Like, in other words, it's just more of the same, and it just became old and stale fast in this movie. It was like a joke going bad. It failed to deliver consistent laughs and fails to bring out the sympathetic moments of the original Shrek that started the anti-Disney campaign. When they laid off Disney's back a little, the anti-Disney content was still practically everywhere. And if you listen closely, you could literally hear the music imitating the themes of Pirates of the Caribbean, the magic, which is going to be a review series after this is completed. The magic has disappeared, and sends the third entry into another typical animated farce that we have seen time and time again. What kills Shrek the Third the most, though, is the cast of underused characters and overused characters. The supporting cast in the first two Shrek films return to provide the most laughs, and it's limited to mere cameos. Like, even Princess Fiona in this one, who's very definitely an important character in the first two movies, is literally so fucking useless in this movie. She doesn't even do shit. She's just there to be there, and just limited this third time around to make room for other characters, such as the other princesses that are literally voiced by female cast members of Saturday Night Live who failed miserably in bringing any smart or humorous material. And you know what's more? These princesses were voiced by actresses that are funny to watch. Like, these actresses are hilarious. You got a great cast of these princesses here. You got Amy Poehler, Maya Rudolph, Amy Sedaris. Even. All three of these chicks are actually funny to watch. You had great female cast right there for the princess characters. And they're all wasted. Right there. Just why? It's like, it sucks. But then, of course, the chemistry just among the rest of the cast is also lacking. Like, the main three, what happened to the chemistry we enjoyed? An insane amount of boring material and jokes would not even help at all. Like, we can draw content from Toy Story 2, another bad animated movie that released the same year that tried to rip off Shrek's formula. Yeah, a lot of animated movies during the 2000s literally tried to copy Shrek's success. I should mention that. Which was that one being Happily Never After, rip off Blazing Saddles, rip off Looney Tunes, and more. And then have some jokes that were worn out of its welcome long ago. And Shrek the Third just became a repeat of past doings of other television shows and movies, done better, and we've already seen better before. Though the first act had potential because it starts off fine in the first half. Because the first half at least tries not to rely on pop culture, but on physical humor, and sidekicks that didn't try to involve burping, farting, or throwing up, which sadly runs the film to the very end. And the film just started collapsing in entertainment value when all the random music just starts kicking in. Songs, actually good songs I liked, were in this movie. like when the pub, and such as Joker the Thief, love that song. Very great song. And the Ramones song during the high school scene, that's just a great song. They had to butcher those songs. And when the pop culture references start flying, and when the plot holes start appearing, lots of plot holes I could literally notice. Shrek the Third has easily the most plot holes in the series, and it isn't as well written as the other two. Like, Shrek was just watered down to a franchise just for the kiddies at this kind of rate, and aimed low in its humor. Like, replacing satire is now gross out humor that fails. The pacing wasn't as good, the climax is even anticlimactic, and even the ending just seemed rushed and effortless. Now, one of the most notable plot holes is when Charming goes to visit the poison apple, and he enters, and literally, yeah, we know the poison apple often gets raided by villains, fairy tale villains, and they just stare at him like, when he's like entering, but they don't do much. And then our new server, which is another one of the ugly stepsisters from Cinderella. And Charming's like, where's Doris? And that stepsister's like, she's not welcome here, and neither are you. And then he wants a drink for himself and all his friends, and that gets the villains all mad. And they're like, we're not your friends. Well, obviously, yeah, they're not his friends, because they've just met him. And Hooksaw just pins him down like, you don't belong here, and proceeds to like point his hook at him like, okay, if Charming is Prince Charming, who basically only turned to a villain, is not based off a villain character, and then why was in Shrek 2, why was King Harold welcome there? And that frog that asked him, do I know you in the second one? And he was like, no, I think you're concerned for someone else. Like, why was that frog chick there? That frog chick's not a villain. King Harold wasn't a fairy tale villain. I think even Puss in Boots lived at that place when we first saw him. And of course, then during that scene when Shrek decides to give up on Fiona, decides to just leave Fiona be with Charming, thinking that she'll be happier with him, which of course doesn't happen. But why the heck were Shrek's happily ever after form his human self, Donkey's happily ever after form his horse self, and Puss in Boots all there in the next scene while Hook was playing piano and Doris was serving them? Why were all 4 or 5 of those characters welcome there? In Shrek 2, like, the villains didn't seem to mind Harold's presence, and Hook clearly didn't seem to mind Shrek's presence at Poison Apple while he was playing piano there. Like, that makes no sense. They seem perfectly welcoming of just about anybody there in Shrek 2. So why is it suddenly now a private organization? I mean, villains did frequent it, but it seemed like anybody was welcome there because the Cyclops let Harold in when he saw him when he was about to look for someone to kill Shrek. So, makes no sense. Back to this review, though. Let's get on with our other new characters. I've already mentioned Merlin. I've mentioned the princesses. Let's get to the character that infuriated me the most in this movie. And that is RT, voiced by Justin Timberlake. Now, when it comes to his music, I like some of JT's music. He does make some good songs that I do enjoy. And when it comes to his movies, I think he's not bad in movies. The movies I've liked of him were The Social Network, I liked Friends with Benefits, I did like his performance in Alpha Dog, and I did kind of enjoy Black Snake Moan. So I think he's alright here, but with his character here, dear God, his character is just fucking annoying. Like, nearly all his scenes, because all Artie did in this movie was just complain, throw tantrums, make everything more difficult for the trio. And even just looks bored through just about everything. Like, and him and Shrek's chemistry isn't even great at all. It's just so mean and rude. And you're supposed to feel bad for this character because he's bullied by everybody in the high school scenes. But the fact is, he just comes off as a spoiled brat. Because as soon as he chooses not to be king, because Puss and Donkey mention all the work that comes with it, and clearly already must have thought it meant no responsibility, he just acts bratty throughout most of this whole movie. And he decides he wants to go back to that hell school. So how are we supposed to feel bad for this guy? This guy just comes off as a dick. Speaking of that, like, this movie's even just downright mean-spirited. Like, because... And I say that because literally in Shrek's first scenes of him trying to rule far, far away, his king duties just literally kill quite a load of people, like this new knight and a bow full of people. And despite being the worst villain, like, Charming literally is cruelly laughed at by this whole audience out of the theater. Like, in his first scene, like, come on, like, the guy, I get his mom, yeah, his mom's evil, I'm not defending his actions, but, like, you could tell him and his mom loved each other in the Shrek 2, and they liked their mom and son chemistry. You could tell they really loved one another. The guy just lost his freaking mom, is at least still trying to make a living and survive. Trying to just do his job, regardless of his cringy performance, but the guy's just trying to make a living. Like, no, like, is it really a shock he basically went and trashed Far, Far Away after the townspeople were just basically being assholes in the first scene? Like, regardless. Yeah, not defending his actions here, but the townspeople kind of bought this whole invasion on, like, the audience in that theater pretty much did all this to themselves. So I don't really feel much sympathy for them either. And one of the jokes is, during the Far, Far Away invasion from all the villains, there's these two dwarves that run into this place called Ye Olde Bootery, scare out all the visitors, and then two other evil dwarves put up pretty much vandalize a sign that says Ye Olde Hooters, and these bunch of excited creeps are literally running in excited, high-fiving one another, like, yeah! No. Yeah. There's practically an implied joke of rape in a Shrek movie. If this is now just a kid's franchise, why is there a rape joke? And not really a rape joke, an implied rape joke, but if you know what Hooters is, guys, it's this restaurant with big booby girls. I guess, yes, fine, we all know Shrek's humor can be a little adult at times. Lots really adults. But dear God, the first two films didn't have implied rape. A joke about implied rape, which is what they were probably thinking about doing, which I could bet. I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened, but thank God they don't show up, but dear God. We did not need a Hooters joke in here. And I should also mention literally King Harold's death. Like, this is every way not to do a death scene. Like, during it, he says he's dying, but the problem is, he keeps faking out like 2 or 3 fucking times, comically, and then Shrek even cracks this unfunny joke where when Harold says that he and Fiona are in line for the throne, and Shrek's like, even on your deathbed, you're still making jokes. You tell that to your in-law when he's about to die? That's fucked up. But of course, after the 2 stupid fake-out deaths, like, I'm just kidding, I'm alive. And then another time, no, I'm alive, I have one more thing to say. Just die already. Just say the important stuff and then die. He then dies for good after he mentions Arthur. And it's supposed to be emotional, but it's not even emotional now after you had 2 stupid, unfunny fake-outs. It's like, guys, if you want to watch my version of Harold's death, Google it. I made a fan-made version where all that stupid stuff was taken out. And then, of course, the funeral song that plays Live and Let Die, it's an awful choice for a funeral because, with the exception of the first half, the rest of it is not even a funeral song. It's not even about a person who's dead. Like, DreamWorks had potential with these new characters, but instead of working out a few of them to make a strong movie like they did with the first 2, they overwhelm most of just about every character you ever heard of in a fairy tale in such a fast time that you're not even realizing who's even in it at all. And then when it comes to Donkey and Puss, they have the worst subplot ever. Because here, the gig here is that they pretty much body switch right here, where Donkey is now in Puss's body, Puss is now in Donkey's body. It's not funny, it's not enjoyable, it is stupid and lazy. Like in the second one, Donkey had a perfect subplot where he had use. As did the new character Puss in Boots. Like, In Donkey subplot, he drank some of the happily ever after potion as a test, and he turned into a horse. And him and Puss do eventually warm up to each other, and they become a perfect comedic duo, Puss and Donkey. Where they do have their fights, but they're still good friends. Here, like, you can tell they're now good friends after the second movie. They become good friends after that. Here, with these two now, who are pretty much now this perfect duo, they get this stupid Freaky Friday gag, just so they have used to the plot, but it does nothing. And then my other infuriating quality, the dream scene. In this scene where Shrek dreams he's back in the swamp, finds a carriage containing an ogre baby, you want to know what the baby does? It vomits in his fucking face and sprays him away with its barf. That's not funny. That's disgusting and gross. I don't watch Shrek for humor like that. Not even the vulgarity in Shrek was this disgusting. I don't want to see a baby vomit in Shrek's face. That's like watching it feels like you're watching an Adam Sandler movie in that. Like, and I mean his later stuff after Click. Just about anything in any of his comedies in the 2010s. And then more babies pour in, throw him through a door, and a crowd of them even watches him naked. You can tell the Shrek's naked. And then he wakes up, and if the scene couldn't get worse, he sees Donkey and Puss now having ogre heads, and Donkey literally says, "Dada!" in a devilish voice, and a zoom in on his face like, "Dada!" He even says it like that. That scene is not only stupid, it's even a ripoff of the other cringe nightmare scene from the worst Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Park 3. Great. So 2 bad third entries have an awful dream scene. And how the ending goes, well, you guys remember that epic climax and showdown in Shrek 2? Do you get that here? Nope! You don't get that here at all. Here, literally just Charming stages a showdown in a musical theater in front of the kingdom, and just as Charming can execute Shrek, Shrek gives out a bunch of these stupid dumb yo mama joke roasts to basically stall Charming. How is this epic or a showdown? That's not a showdown at all. And then Fiona, Puss, and Donkey, the princesses and fairy tale characters confront the villains, but all they do is stupid poses. And they're quickly subdued fast. Then Artie shows up, gives this boring speech to the villains, convinces them they can be accepted into society instead of being outcasts so they pretty much get a forced redemption. And the villains agree to give up their evil ways. So yeah, they get a forced redemption here, but Charming of course refuses to listen, lunges at Artie with a sword, and Shrek blocks the blow, and it appears that he has been stabbed. It even looks like he's been stabbed. And it could have been a dark moment right there. That could have actually been a pretty dark moment. And then Charming decrees himself a king, but of course we get a stupid joke again. And Shrek reveals the sword missed. Like, instead we could have had him saying, "You know I have layers." Instead he gets a, "You need to work on your aim." Stop making a joke for 1 fucking second and try to play one thing seriously for a change. And then Dragon knocks the tower into Charming, and that's just the lame finale right there. How is that epic? Artie gets crowned the new king far, far away, and the king celebrates. Merlin reverts Puss and Donkey's body swap back to themselves, and then Shrek and Fiona go back to the swamp and raise their triplets. And coping with parenthood from help from of course Donkey, Puss, Lily, and the Dragon. And this horrid sequel is finally damn over. And then the credits has this shitty rap song sung by Donkey and Puss called "I Wanna Thank You for Let Me Be Myself." It just makes me want to bash my head in against the wall. Because it's so stupid and cringy. Like, my god. Yeah, this is an obnoxious rap song end credits. Okay, sure, but sure. Maybe there's like 1 or 2 are good qualities. There's some good songs in the soundtrack. The scene of Snow White's immigration battle cry did give me a slight smirk, and I thought the actors did fine for what they were given despite most of them being wasted, especially the princess actresses. And one character to give me chuckles here, and that's of course Merlin. Like, Merlin was the only new character I liked in this. And one final quality was the fan-made version of Harold's Death I made. If you want to check that out, I'll post a link to that in the description below. But other than those, Shrek the Turd is a horrible third entry, and this will forever be known as the movie that pretty much ruined the iconic green ogre and made him an unfunny meme on the internet. In the end, Shrek the Turd is a movie you should never go near. unless you want this franchise to be ruined for you, and just skip to 4. Anyway, that's it for my rant on Shrek the Turd. And when I'm going to rate Shrek the Turd, here's how I'm going to definitely rank this movie.
Overall, please, for the love of God, just skip this damn movie altogether and go straight to Forever After Shrek 2, because there was nothing even important or worth watching in this crap fanfic film of a movie. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Shrek the Third, I'm going to give Shrek the Third a 4 out of 10.
There we go. That wraps up my review of Shrek the Turd. So, our next rewatch is thankfully going to be for a better Shrek movie. And that film is going to be for none other than, of course, Shrek Forever After. To me, the true Shrek 3 we should have got. And then after that, we can finally finish the series with the 2 Puss in Boots movies. And hopefully I should get those 2 Puss in Boots films done by the last week of June. And then I can move on to the Pirates of the Caribbean series, which will start around the 20th anniversary of Curse of the Black Pearl. Because that's when I want to start the series. Because this will be the first film's 20th anniversary. Ironic, like 20 years have passed. Wow. Until then, guys, that'll be it for this rant. Thank you all for watching. If you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to like, subscribe to Donji Corleone.